Welcome, guys, to a special episode. We haven't done one of these in a long time. You are in the superhero sanctum. What does that mean? We bring our subject matter experts and people that go over and support our community like our patriots, and we uplift them for a few moments so you can connect with them and to go over and thrive and learn some of their journey, because we as veterans will eventually make that transformation into a new mission. So we share those people with you so you can make that transformation into that next mission. So our special guest today is Todd Zimmermann. He is a children's author that shares patriotic wisdom through beautiful stories that serve our community. I'm going to bring him on stage and we're going to get this interview started. Hey, Todd, do I have you?
You've got me.
That is awesome. So we're going to start small and then we're going to share the book Going Big. So I want you to share with us why you served our community and then reached out to us.
Well, I think the biggest reason is just my family. I grew up. My dad served in the military. My grandfather served in the military. Every one of my aunts and uncles served in the military. My aunt was one of the first female military members of World War II, and love of country was just always something that was really super important to me. I mean, every December 7th, when we were growing up as kids, we went down to Fountain Park and went to the Pearl Harbor session tribute. Every Memorial Day, every 4th of July, we were, at the parades in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. And, my family just has this incredible love of country. And and I just have so much admiration for those who've served as military members and as first responders. So I wanted to give back to that community in particular and showcase all the reasons why all of us should be so proud of this fantastic country that we call home.
That is beautiful. I had no family connections when I came in, so it took me about 25 years to become patriotic, because I definitely was not patriotic. So, and that's the beautiful thing that you share in your story. So you decided to become a children's author, and I've only interviewed a few of these authors because usually I work with non-fiction authors because just my brain can't handle fiction. It's just one of those things. I'm not saying I don't interview fiction people. It's just for my brain, I write nonfiction. My wife is the fiction, nonfiction, maybe a children's book. But what are the ups and downs of writing children's books specifically?
Writing children's books, I've been told it's the only type of book I've ever written. I've written 8 of them now. But I've been told that writing children's books is more difficult than writing a novel, because regardless if you're writing a novel or you're writing a children's book, you have creativity in your soul. With a children's book, you've got 1,500 to 1,800 words that you can tell your entire story in. If you're writing a novel, you've got 38,000 words that you can use or more. So you've got a huge palette as somebody who's writing a novel, or writing, not writing nonfiction, or even if it's fiction, if it's a novel. But as a children's book, you've got to get the point across in as few of words as possible. And that is a challenge. It's from what I've been told by experts. Again, it's the only genre I've ever written in. So I'd be interested to try out, writing a novel. But it's that getting it down to a short, concise message is something that's probably the most difficult for any kid's book author.
So basically, TikTok shorts and reels have existed before they came into reality. So you've been writing short, and now our attention span is short. So your book should be going off the shelf. It's like, hey, we already have a short attention span. It's 1,800 words. Boom, set and go. I bet you that's the reason why, even though it's a hard industry to get people going, I bet you once people love it, the sales go viral. So let's hear more about your book. And I got blessed to hear your book and narrated through an interactive PDF, but we're going to have you share on what this book is all about. So if you can bring that book from the back to the front, and we can talk more about that.
So this is Oliver Doodle Dandy. It's a celebration of America, and it's interesting how it came about. This is a spin-off of my Christmas series, which is called Oliver the Ornament. And Oliver the Ornament is a 7-book series about a family's collection of Christmas ornaments. After I released the first in the 7-book series, I started getting contacted by teachers, by parents, by grandparents saying they love the message and the lessons that I was teaching in these stories, but they wish they could have a story that would educate the kids year round, that the kids could read throughout the year. And I thought to myself, my background is marketing and advertising, so I'm thinking I don't want to compromise the integrity of my brand. This is, after all, a story about ornaments, and it's a Christmas story. But something happened 4 years ago. There was a former NFL quarterback, and I don't want to get political, but there was a former NFL quarterback who took issue with Nike releasing Betsy Ross gym shoes. And the gym shoes for Nike had Betsy Ross's flag on the back of them. And Nike had produced over 1 million copies, a million pairs of these shoes. And this particular football player was really upset about it, and Nike bent the knee to him and destroyed all 1 million copies. And it was right before the 4th of July, and I can remember being so incensed that this is the message that children are hearing about our country. And this is a one-sided message, and this isn't accurate about American history and why people serve our nation and have given blood for this nation. And a couple of days later, I was in my attic and I'm getting flags out. It's the 4th of July. I've got put all flags in front of my yard during the 4th of July, and I glance over and I see all of my ornament boxes. And the idea for Oliver Doodle Dandy came to my mind. And that afternoon, I sat down and I wrote the story. And there you have kind of the inception of Oliver Doodle Dandy.
And it's like absolutely amazing. And then you were able to still keep it in brand. I think that's one of the hardest things as we as veterans get out. We do some things and then we don't think of the brand in that particular regard. I know when I first got out of the service, this was when I got out of active duty. Now I'll be retiring out of the reserve world. Is that when I came out, I called the company Perspectives and Reflections. What do you think that sounds like?
I'm sorry, you broke out there for just a minute, Dan.
I said my original company's name is Perspectives and Reflections. What would you think from a marketing branding? What was I selling?
Perspectives and Reflections. I would think it would be, I'd think it was a story of your life. I'd think it would be, and it sounds like it could be your book.
Yeah, it was actually to help. It was the same company rebranded as to help military veterans, first responders. And most people got confused and they thought I was running a spa. So I found out that, yeah, branding of name is everything. I had no veterans coming to me. The patriots were confused and everything else. And that's the beautiful thing that you learned and you have, and the wisdom that you were able to pivot a little bit out of your branding, but still keep it holistically together, going from Christmas to the 4th of July. So I'd like to get more into details of like when you were growing up and thinking like you did marketing and advertising and everything else, why, when you made this pivot, why did you go to children's books? Like, was there something that was pivotal in your life? Did you like, hey, I'm done marketing and I just want to go over and just write books? I mean, what made you do this pivot?
There's a bit of spirituality message behind it. I was in corporate America for 20 years working for the largest magazine publishing company in America. I had my exit strategy of, I was going to work 10 more years and, ride off into the sunset and have a great retirement in Florida. And well, it was my 20th anniversary and I was part of a major downsizing where 500 of my colleagues and I lost our jobs. So I had to think what I was going to do next. And so I opened up a consulting firm with a colleague of mine, and we were doing quite well with it. And then it was 4 days before Christmas. And I was decorating a Christmas tree, hanging the last of 200 ornaments on the tree. And someone in the room said, "You don't have to hang every ornament on the tree." And I'm like, well, what am I going to do with this one? Put him in the attic where he's going to miss out on all the fun. And then all the ornaments are going to go back in the attic in January, and they're going to make fun of this one because he missed out on all the fun. Well, all my family and friends who were in the room with me thought I was nuts. I, on the other hand, thought I had come up with the $1 billion idea. kid's story about an ornament that gets left behind in the attic. So for the next 3.5 days, my wheels are spinning, and I'm thinking, this is a great idea. I start like ideation of who are the ornaments, what is the story, how many books are there, what is there going to be, is there going to be merchandise, all the questions. And as luck would have it, I woke up Christmas morning at 4:00. I was at my parents' house, and I knew what the story was. And you ever get that where you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, that's a really good idea. I've got to remember that for tomorrow morning. And then you wake up in the morning and you think, what was that idea? And I just couldn't take the chance of not remembering what the story was. So I went down to my parents' computer, and 45 minutes later, the first book was done. And at that point, I knew I had to move forward with it. I knew that, but for some reason, God wanted me to write a kid's story about ornaments that come to life and teach kids important lessons. And that's exactly what I've done.
I would definitely have to say it's God inspired, because it's taken me years to learn systems to write nonfiction. And then you're writing fiction books, and then you're writing children's books. And within 45 minutes, that's the thing. My wife has that power of the gifting. She gets the Holy Spirit flow, and she writes from 2,000 to 5,000 words a day. If she ain't inspired, it doesn't happen. For me, my books, I'm like, if I don't get them done, they never get done. So I have to say that is a God thing. If you can write a children's book on the fly in 45 minutes, I'm like, my English reports were horrible, like run-on sentences everywhere, no flow. They're like, we sort of get what you're saying, but not really. So I got to say that is kudos, and we will give God and allow using you, Todd, as the conduit for that. So let's go into how you fuse together. So I don't think, and this is just my theory, is that you got the download for the first book and you were like, all right, I'm going to type military, veterans, first responders. I'm going to support them. You're patriotic, but like the second book came out. So how did these fuse together, and why did you specifically start serving? Because I know you at least have some pictures, if you could show them from the back, of who you're going over and supporting. So I'd love to hear how the book and the mission served together and they fused.
So, well, it fused really when that all occurred with, getting rid of the Betsy Ross shoes. And if you remember that time in our nation, and it was longer ago, it was further back than 4 years. I think it was 6 years. But if you remember that time, there were statues being ripped down in our country. Everything about America was bad, supposedly, or we were being told it was bad. And listening to that over and over, I just thought, my goodness, like I was so lucky to go through an education where I got up every single, the first day of school, every single day saying the Pledge of Allegiance. And and then I started getting all these requests from parents and teachers to try to do another book. So it was always on my mind to do another book. But I thought if I did do another book, I thought I would do an entirely different character. But when I was in the attic and I saw the flags and I saw the ornaments there, I came up with this idea. And the idea, kind of in a nutshell, is it's July now, and the family is getting ready for their 4th of July parade, or their 4th of July picnic. And the children are asked to go to the attic to get the flags, just like I went to the attic to get the flags. And as the children arrive in the attic, they're shocked beyond belief, because all the friends that they met, the ornaments, have now come to life again, but are now all dressed in patriotic costumes, preparing for their own 4th of July parade. And the children can't understand it, because the children think that the 4th of July is nothing more than fireworks and parades. Well, one by one, each of the ornaments, their friends in the story, tell them, no, that's what happens on the 4th of July, but that's not why we celebrate the 4th of July. So one by one, they tell them about the freedoms that we have. They tell them about great presidents, about inspirational Americans, about the beauty of our nation. And in America, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything that you set your mind to. So one of the things that I wanted to do as a result of this is call out my family members, which you see here, going all the way back to my grandfather who served in World War II, my father who served in the Korean War, all the way to my nephew who's serving today. So I wanted to call all of them out because they are the heroes. I think back to my own life. I was so lucky because I grew up post-Vietnam and pre-Iraq. So by the time things started heating up in the Middle East in 1991, I was already well in my career trajectory. So my generation, like my, 5-7 year age group of peers, we just had this great peace. And, I wanted this book to show, we didn't get that peace. That peace just didn't come by itself. It came from all the sacrifices that all of our military and first responders have given to this amazing nation.
Yes, I definitely go over and say so. That is a beautiful thing to go over and see, and beautiful tribute to there. So if people have not been seeing the banner that we've been going over, you can actually get a special discount to go get this book. Actually, Todd, I have to ask this question. Is it just this book on the 20% code, or is it on all your books that you publish?
Everything on our website. War Hero to Superhero is the promo code, and you've got the link in as well. And you just click on that, and 20% will automatically be taken off.
That is amazing. And we know book costs can be expensive. So we'll have to do a whole separate episode after to teach veterans again on how to go and publish. So, and we'd love to go over and serve those veterans that do go over and publish. So my last question for you, we tweaked a little bit because you are a patriot serving our community, because we answer it differently to our war heroes, superheroes. So our last question is 3 superhero tactics. So a lot of our veterans get out, and there's only 2 ways they tell their story. They either tell it to the few people they love, or they unfortunately die with that story and it goes into an obituary, and they only get like a liner for a couple things. We want to break that and have more veterans tell their stories, either the creative stories or their narrative stories, or sharing their wisdom and whatnot. What would you give as 3 superhero tactics if you have a veteran that wants to become a children's author? How can they take it and just go from surviving and kind of like figuring it out to going over and thriving and then living it out?
Well, the first one is exactly what you said, is tell your story. There are so many amazing stories, and everyone who's listening to this, I hope you're thinking right now what your story is, because there are millions of people who want to hear your story. I can absolutely guarantee it. So think of that story and bring that story to life, and never let anything get you down that you can't bring that story to life. And then set a goal. I set a goal with my Christmas books that when the last one was being released, I would be entering into an animation deal with a studio. The last book was released last November, and I'm currently in a preliminary option with a Hollywood studio to create the first ever animated Christmas series. And then finally, just enlist your family and friends. They are your biggest cheerleaders. Have them be honest with you. I had a circle that was so big, and I was so fortunate and blessed that I had that. And I'm like, tell me every reason this won't work. Tell me why it won't work. And then the final thing that I'll just say is, you've all got these great stories. When you think about this story, put it together in an outline, and then go to your local bookstore. Go to your local bookstore, tell them about you, about your life, and about your idea for a story. The store owner is going to absolutely love the fact that you involve them with the creation of your story. And it'll give you some really great pointers on how to move forward. And then finally, I know this is more than 3. You can go to my website at olivertheornament.com, and you can contact me through there, and I will be more than happy to help anyone that I can to, bring your book to life and your story to life, because there are so many stories that haven't been told.
I totally agree. These stories need to get out there. If it's memoir, children's books, things of that nature. So, Todd, I want to thank you for going over and sharing your wisdom and sharing your story in there. I'm going to give you the floor one more time to give anything that you're up and coming and doing, any resources. And if you want to close us on a quote, whatever way you want to close us out, then we'll go to credits. So,
Well, I'll just say here, if I may, I'll just show you this, where we say, the other ornaments then joined Oliver, each telling stories of other historic Americans. And Fraser told the story of Martin Luther King Jr. and the bravery of Rosa Parks. Marley and Joan told them the story of Susan B. Anthony and her fight for women's equality. And then Edsel told them about the greatest generation and the sacrifices they made to save the world. To me, that's the essence of this book right here. And I hope everyone who's watching this knows how many millions and millions of people, not just in America, but around the world, appreciate the service that you have given to our nation and the world.